Welcome. Welcome, everybody. My name's Mike Denham, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our February edition of the Florida Lecture Series, produced by the Lawton Child Center for Florida History. And for those of you that are with us for the first time, please take a moment and see my secretary or myself, and let us have your mailing address for next year. We'd be delighted to put you on our mailing list for next year. I'd like to talk tonight about our last regularly scheduled program, which will be in March, and that's Thursday, March 16th. That's right. There's a mistake on the brochures. It's Thursday, March 16th in this room, when we're going to welcome Bob Keeling to our stage once again. Many of you know Bob from former programs. He's got a new book out, which has just hit the press, or just hit the stands. It's called Good Day Sunshine State, that is, How the Beatles Rocked Florida. Bob's focus will be on the Beatles in the 2 weeks they spent in Florida during the watershed year of 1964. Good Day Sunshine, Bob, in Good Day Sunshine, Bob uncovers the little-known nexus between the Beatles, Martin Luther King, and the civil rights activism in Florida. Bob will follow the Beatles through Miami, the Keys, St. Augustine, and Jacksonville, where they played the first desegregated rock concert in the South. Many of you will remember Bob's fine programs on Graham Parsons and also on Elvis. He's a great speaker, and we're really looking forward to having him back. Then we're going to have a specially organized program on April 13th at 6 o'clock at the McKay Archives in a special add-on event of the year. We just basically brought it together, in which we'll welcome Chuck Warren and Clifton Lewis, who will discuss their recent book on Bartow's L.B. Brown House and its founder, Lawrence B. Brown. From slavery to community builder, the story of Lawrence B. Brown. Many of you will know that over the last 20 or so years, the L.B. Brown House in Bartow has been the focal point for an annual L.B. Brown Festival and Symposium, and I've seen several of you that were there actually last weekend with us. And Chuck, can you be recognized? I think you're in the audience. Chuck? There you are, Chuck. Okay, great. Okay. That will be April 13th at the McKay Archives on the second floor at 6 o'clock. And we have some flyers out there, if you'd like to get one. Now it's my pleasure to introduce you to tonight's special guest. What is it about Polk County in the 1960s and the 1970s that produced such musical talent as Graham Parsons, Bobby Braddock, John Cornell, Jim Stafford, Les Dudek, and a kid from Vermont named Rick Norcross? It must have been an amazing time. Rick Norcross first stepped on the Florida Southern campus in 1963. From the minute he came to town, he immersed himself in the music scene. As a freshman from East Hardwick, Vermont, Norcross won the Hootenanny Contest at the Polk Theater in Downtown Lakeland. And a year later, he opened at Greenwich Village-style coffee shop, The Other Room, near FSC campus, close to Reese Cliffs. Everybody knows where that is. Norcross spent time playing music in the folk clubs of England in 1965 and returned to Florida to pursue a degree in journalism from the University of South Florida, where he started his career as a rock journalist and photographer. Norcross worked for the Tampa Times during the golden age of music from 1969 through 1974. He interviewed and photographed stars like Elvis Presley, Janis Joplin, Johnny Cash, Leon Russell, Merle Haggard, Elton John, Eric Clapton, and the famous groups like the Byrds and the Rolling Stones. Not bad, huh? With a front row seat on stage and backstage access to these artists, he documented the spirit and the unbridled energy of rock and roll in those years. Since 1974, Norcross has been playing music professionally working out of Burlington, Vermont with his award-winning Western swing band, Rick and the All-Star Ramblers. He's been a touring musician since 1958, and with 24 albums under his belt. And he's got a special event he's going to be attending in Ocala tomorrow night with Marty Stewart, and I think he's going to be talking a little bit about that tonight. Anyway, here we go. Okay, all right.
Riding my guitar for 50 years and more. It's taken me to places I'd have never gone before. Who'd have ever thought that it would go this long or far? I've had such a good time riding my guitar. Ooh. East Hardwick neighbor Harold Patch lived right next door to me. In '36 he played the old songs live on TV. Went up to his attic, fetched down his old guitar, and then he taught me my first chords and where the changes are. Riding my guitar for 50 years and more. I bought that old guitar from him for 30 hours of chores. Who'd have ever thought that it would go this long or far? I've had such a good time riding my guitar. Out and back with Waco Jack behind the other room, spilling drinks with Will McLean beneath the Lakeland moon. Graham Parsons and Shiloh occupy the stage, so feed the kitty on the wall, 'cause folk is all the rage. Riding my guitar for 50 years and more. Running my first coffee house, folk singers by the score. Who'd have ever thought that it would go this long or far? I've had such a good time riding my guitar. The Troubadour on Brompton Road, cousins up on Green. Mid-60s folk in London was so vibrant at its peak. Out on British Rail to play the clubs you see. London City Agency took such good care of me. Riding my guitar for 50 years and more. Playing funny songs to Brits just to hear them roar. Who'd have ever thought that it would go this long or far? I've had such a good time riding my guitar. John Bailey built an 18-string guitar for me to play. 3 octaves on the lower strings, it was something in its day. I named my coffee house in Tampa after that guitar. The 18th string ran 2 good years, folks came from near and far. Riding my guitar for 50 years and more. Singers at the 18th string came rolling through the door. Who'd have ever thought that it would go this long or far? such a good time riding my guitar. Thanks to all the ramblers who played in all the bands. Thanks to all the audiences, how they clap their hands. Thanks for all the pickle miles we traveled as we won. Thanks to all the music makers playing in Vermont. Riding my guitar for 50 years and more. Introduced to friends that I'd have never met before. Who'd have ever thought that it would go this long or far? I've had such a good time riding my guitar. It's all about the music, it's all about the songs, it's all about the friends of ours who came to sing along. It's all about the ramblers, about the pickle too. It's all about the songs we play and what they say to you. It's all about the songs we play and what they say to you. Oodalay, oodalay, oodalay. Wake up. Thank you so much. I am the Rick Norcross, and I've got to tell you, I'm thrilled to be back at Florida Southern College. As Dr. Mike said, I came down here on a train from Washington, D.C. in, August of 1963, and got off the train, and my first time out of Vermont, and it was quite a shock, really, and I did win that Hootenanny Contest at the Polk Theater, and the way I won it was because there was all these Kingston Trio guys and slick guys and better looking and better sounding guys than I, but I got out there and I took a wad of gum out of my mouth and stuck it on the microphone, and it just got to people's hearts. And then when I finished, went off stage, and then the MC was out there, and I went out and said, excuse me, and I got the gum off the microphone, and I guess it was wacky enough to win the contest. But what happened was that because I had a little notoriety there, all these civic groups, ladies groups, and folks in Lakeland figured we'll ask him to come and sing at our meeting, because he's fairly amusing, and it was free. They could get me for nothing. And the downside of that was that Dr. Charles T. Thrift was the speaker at many of those things, and so here you got this freshman guy singing Vermont folk songs that were really Vermont hillbilly songs, and he was not amused. And so anyway, a little later you'll hear more about it, but I'm here really to share where Florida Southern College was such a huge influence on me. I was in the concert choir. Jack Houts was the choir director, and Bob McDonald, a wonderful musician, pianist here. All those guys encouraged me and gave me the nerve to kind of keep going. So I'm gonna quickly take you through a few years, and like the song said, you know, I wrote that and recorded that 10 years ago, so it's been 60 years. And who'd have ever thought that it would go this long and far, and where I've never actually got famous or any of the rest of that stuff, or made a whole bunch of money. I was able to write my songs and have a following and have enough of an audience to continue doing it for the years. And it's not where you get, it's the trip, the journey that gets you there. And so I've been really, really fortunate and lucky, and a lot of that I credit to the time I spent here at Florida Southern. So it's my first time in Branscombe Auditorium, but I will tell you that a sophomore co-ed and I went up a series of ladders and got to the very roof the highest point here at Branscombe while they were building it to watch the sunset. So I haven't been in Branscombe, but I have been on Branscombe. So, and I'm going to tell you the truth here. So let me this is like somebody's vacation, but I want to show you just some highlights or lowlights and see what you think. This is my first band, Hardwick Academy Marching Band. That's also where my music came from. I was playing the bass drum there. So when I got down here, folk music was going strong. I talked the freshman class into letting me put together a little tour. And so I got 2 guys from Vermont and myself, and we came down here and did a series of concerts. And we got big money, tickets $1. And I'm not sure if they got their money's worth, but it was fun. That's me playing the banjo at that very show. We did a show at Cypress Gardens, the late Cypress Gardens. And this is a recording studio over on Florida Avenue at Caswin's Music, which was, boy, there's another wonderful place. This is the coffee house called The Other Room that we opened. Caswin's was a triplex. Fat Jack's Delicatessen was in the northern one. Caswin Music was in the southern, and there was an empty place, an empty storefront, and Caswin's owned it. So I talked them into let me start this coffee house. And it was come in off the street, play, and then there was a kitty. Basically, it was by donation only. It's kind of like the Cafe Wa in Greenwich Village. So there's a shot of me playing there, of course. Let's see. When I was in London, I went to Portobello Road and bought a British military band uniform jacket for £5. And I used to wear that around until Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band came out, and everybody thought I was copying the Beatles. So I still have that jacket, of course. That's the 18-string guitar I had built in London. A bunch of jazz musicians from London at the biggest club, the Surbiton Assembly Rooms. One of the folk club kind of brochures. When I got to London, I went to the Troubadour, and I did a set, and a guy from London City Agency was there, and so he signed me on the spot to represent me, and the other American folk singer they had was Paul Simon. And so Paul Simon was really upset when Columbia Records overdubbed drums and electric guitar and all this stuff on Sounds of Silence. He was furious, but it started climbing the charts, and at this point, it was #1 in America, and so he was forced to go back, and the Cousins was the only all-night folk club in London, and I frequently was the MC and ran, the signed people up when they were going to be on and stuff, and that was Paul Simon's going-away party, to go back to New York City and assume the crown that he so richly deserves after all these years. So there's my proof. I got homesick. The only running water you saw in Lakeland was in a shower. So it was whole different than the mountainous area of Vermont where I was from. So I went home after the first semester, and Dr. Howe, who was the chaplain here at Florida Southern, he got me hired by the Methodist Church, the Board of Evangelism, 1908 Grand Avenue, Nashville, Tennessee. And they sent me around to different places, different youth things that were happening. And one of them was working on Daytona Beach during Easter week, and we do concerts up and down the beach on a flatbed stage, and then Saturday night we'd do a big concert in the band shell over there, and you can see the billing we had there. And that jazz group, Naughty Parker and Smokey Montgomery, the 2 guys, they were in the Light Crust Doughboys in 1937, and that was the original band that started Western swing music. And so anyway, it was a thrill to get to know those guys. I did that for 2 years. The Methodist Church sent me to El Paso, to Lake Webster in Indiana, and West Virginia Wesleyan in Buchanan, West Virginia. So I signed a publishing deal with Carolyn Hester in New York City
in 1966, and that was what I got, $600. That hearse that we had seen on Daytona Beach. Isn't it a beauty? So this is what I looked like when I got back from England in 1966, and this is why Dr. Thrift would not allow me to re-enter Florida Southern College. Gospel. Looks pretty rough. So anyway, it progressed. That's the 18 string I'm playing at University of South Florida. I opened a coffee house over there, bringing New York acts down. $100 to a round trip ticket from New York City to Tampa back in 1967, 1968. I had Jack Elliott, Ramblin' Jack Elliott. I met a lot of, Carolyn Hester came twice, and so we had a lot of, national level folk singers in it, and it was very popular just off the campus of South Florida. Yep, then I got, don't be laughing now. Then I got in the newspaper business. I heard that the Tampa Times is looking for a music writer, so I showed up there and got the job. And this is Doyle Harville, and he's from Plant City, and he was a Marine in Korea. And when I showed up for the interview, I was wearing, white bell bottoms and an orange tie. And the city editor took one look at me and started betting how long it would take for Harville to kick me out of his office. And he heard them and hired me because of it. So, and I learned so much. I was there 5 years and learned to turn in a story a day and interview some great people. And we'll see some pictures here a little later. But anyway, that's my old pal. He's gone now, but boy, he sure was. I was sitting there a week after he hired me with my finger up in the air looking at my keyboard of a typewriter, and he came up behind me and yelled, "Norcross!" That was his pet name for me. He was that all for years. And said I had better learn to type within 2 weeks or I was out of a job, and I did, of course. Anyway, I worked a lot of clubs around here between going to England, and that's me with a partner in London. I worked in Vermont from, May to October, and that's me in Vermont. So you can see Dr. Thrift did the right thing. You imagine walking around the campus looking like that? I'm telling you. Geez, that was a story the Tribune did. And look at, you can't see, that's the only skyscraper in downtown Tampa, was that one building down Florida Avenue. It's pretty amazing, isn't it, compared to today? So I did a lot of radio up there and a little bit down here. This is a contract where I opened up for Buck Owens, and we had to back up junior samples. That was a blast. Played the Florida State Fair 11 different years, and Frank Ross, who used to come to my coffee house, who is from Lakeland and went to Lakeland High School, he was the executive director of the Florida State Fair for a while, and then went on to be the publicity guy for Cabela. And Frank let me learn the trade of sponsorships. So I came to the fair 4 weeks before the fair, and hustled up sponsorships for the fair, and then was a broadcast media coordinator in addition to playing there. But anyway, that's the crew. Marcy, that's Nancy Johnson in that picture. We opened up for, Kenny Rogers. That's another appearance at the fair. That was my 1950 ambassador, and that was my office back of the Pepsi Theater. There's the ink spots and my Nash ambassador. Hank Thompson, wonderful old Western swing guy. So there I am again for a story in the Tribune, and can you see that is the skyline of downtown Tampa behind me? Can you imagine the one skyscraper there, which was a bank building? And then I got involved in a number of different events. There's the Nash that I used to go back and forth I had a radio show up there, opening for Hank Williams' Drifting Cowboys, and Jimmy C. Newman. Did a lot of first nights. 35 years I played on New Year's Eve for this operation. Larry, Darrell, and Darrell, I brought them to Burlington. I started a food festival, a food and music festival, and I brought those guys to headline it for 2 different years, and it sure brought the people out. There we are in City Hall. Part of the routine of going back and forth. That's my food festival right there. That's him. Okay, there's the first shot of the Mighty Pickle. That's my tour bus in the background. More about that. Burlington is the biggest city in the state, and it's 42,000 people. Oops. And these are the numbers that my food festival pulled, and those are the numbers for 23 years. You bought food in 50-cent tokens, and to do almost $0.4, it made quite a. My best part about it was spending over $250,000 on Vermont musicians. So that's what I got a charge out of. The city had Rick Norcross month. We played a Super Bowl party for Budweiser, and the rock and roll band their truck got blown over on I-75, and so I scrounged up a sound system and played the show and saved the promotion, and so everybody was way happy with that, and we got a really good seat to Super Bowl. Too bad it was a bad game, but anyway, you can see I'm working the Rambler thing. I do a lot of let's see, what do you say, benefit concerts and stuff. Speaking of which, we played the first benefit concert for WMNF before they even went on the air. And Marcy Finkelstein is here in the audience someplace, one of the glorious voices. Raise your hand, would you, Marcy? So there she is, right down here in the 4th row, 5th row. But anyway, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And MNF sure has done a lot for wonderful music in the Bay Area. Okay, moving along. These are just a few. Oh, I got another Norcross Day here. Things like the opening of a bridge. I mean, we're talking big show here, big show. Played it at legislature in the State House. Put out an album of all Vermont songs that I'd written. Did a TV spot that actually they ran in movie theaters. If you can imagine bringing your date and seeing a 20-foot my face there, that would really keep the old juices flowing. Last show I ever did in Tampa, a book a guy wrote. That's the guy that wrote it. Let's see. There's the Mighty Pickle and my band down there.
You can't make it up, you can't live it down. That's just the way things happened in this.
This was a song that was
Hills of solid granite,
the Western Swing Song of the Year.
Things that happened long ago, they're never coming back. I'll tell you a story, and I swear that it's true, about Hardwick Academy in 1962. Junior prom where dreams come true came along that year. I asked a classmate to the dance, I overcame my fear. Harold Holcomb's funeral home's the only place in town where you could buy fresh flowers to pin upon her gown. You had to call the week before to order in advance. Then you'd pick your corsage up and take it to the dance. You can't make it up, live it down. That's just the way things happened in this Northeast Kingdom town. Hills of solid granite sometimes have a crack. Things that happened long ago, they're never coming back. Downstairs, one big cooler, they kept everything inside. The dead, the flowers that they sold, and the formaldehyde. It did not matter to the dead, they have no sense of smell. But the flowers from the cooler looked like like heaven, smelled like hell. Midnight by Tussie on the girls, the boys all wore Old Spice. But the flowers from the cooler, they didn't smell that nice. The overwhelming you to pew, rising like the tide, wafting from corsages was all formaldehyde. You can't make it up, you can't live it down, but that's just the way things happened in this Northeast Kingdom town. Hills of solid granite sometimes have a crack. Things that happened long ago, they're never coming back. You pinned the corsage to her dress or tied it on her wrist, and when you danced a slow dance, it was rising like the mist. But dancing to Ray Hussey's band and holding your girl tight, everything was A-OK on that very special night. Today I go to funerals, that familiar smell surrounding. I look into the casket, it sets my heart a-pounding. It's amazing how formaldehyde still makes me feel romance. It takes me back to junior prom and makes me wanna dance. You can't make it up, you can't live it down. That's just the way things happened in this Northeast Kingdom town. Hills of solid granite sometimes have a crack. Things that happened long ago, they're never coming back.
Is that sick? Thank you. Look, I'm going to, Pat Leahy, I'm going to cut this part of it. I mean, it's just stuff about what I've been doing. I want to get on to showing you some photographs I shot and also this little short segment about the Mighty Pickle. Let me tell you that this 1957 flexible Starliner was the same make as the two buses that the concert choir here at Florida Southern had. And so I really fell in love with them, especially when you're on your way to Key West in these 50s buses, and one overheats, and on Route 1, you have to pull over. But I ran this bus for 22 years up in Vermont, and then I sold it, and a fellow from Ocala bought it, and he put $1 million into restoring this bus for 3 years during COVID. And so, and then donated it to Marty Stewart for his Congress of Country Music Museum in Philadelphia, Mississippi. So he's coming, the bus is back for a few tweaks in Ocala this weekend, and they've been documenting the whole process from the time it left Vermont. And so I'm gonna actually do an interview with Marty, and anyway, I want to, let's see, I'm going to get out of this program. I'm sorry, it's going to take me just a second. Let's see, escape. Stick with me. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. This is going to be exciting. I'm warning you. So this is what the bus looked like, and Vermont Transit had 13 of these, and they were proving what a wonderful thing it was by landing a helicopter on it. I looked through all these yearbooks that Florida Southern has online and could not find a picture of Big Red or Little Red, but a lot of country stars use these. This is Doc Williams from Wheeling, West Virginia. This is Hank Snow. I actually, this is Jennifer Love Hewitt. That's my bus there. I rented it out to a movie company in Montreal several times for several different movies. They were doing breakfast at Tiffany's, and so I had two 1950s police officers. I had them put the grab on me, and I used that picture for my Christmas cards that year. The Latin Gigolos. It gets better. Toilet Paper Man from Seventh Generation. Peter Clavell, mayor of Burlington, was running for the governor of Vermont, and this was his campaign using my bus. And that's what the Mighty Pickle looks like, with our band logo on the side and everything. So, female vocalist from 28 years ago or so, and that's Rambler Ranch. Got a Rambler dealership sign. That's where I live, right on the shores of Lake Champlain, and there's the Mighty Pickle. That's it. You can see the lake and the mountains, the Adirondack Mountains behind. I'm actually in the rail yard here. That's what it looks like inside. That's the back, the salon. People used to stop by and take pictures with it. It's pretty funny, huh? And this is a guy, Kerwin Elmers, that started Custom Coach in 1961. They did a $100,000 refit of this particular bus, and I took it to Loudon, Ohio, to a homecoming, and he got on the bus and said, "Oh man, this is holding up really well." And this is a key fob from those guys. A few shots of it at shows that I've done. There's a ferry going to New York State to play over across the lake. Anyway, isn't she a grand old girl? This is the opening of that bridge, Champlain Bridge I was telling you about. Even my hometown had it in if you look to the right, you'll see this is a mural that's in town that they've put the Mighty Pickle in. Sunset from my place, oh geez. That's Miranda Lambert. Some of you may know who she is, country singer. That's Senator Leahy and I in the back of the bus. Looking suave, on a part of a benefit show we were setting up for the band. And then when I was getting ready to sell it, newspaper did a story about that, and there it is, getting warmed up just before it's leaving Vermont. That's the last trip out. And then the last gas up. And so here's what it looks like today. Can you believe what $1 million will do? Let's see. It's by the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville. That's Marty right there in front of the bus. This is what that back lounge I showed you before. That's what it looks like now. Some kids on the inside of the bus. Every tabletop is all hand-tooled leather, as you can see. Okay, so I wrote a song about this whole thing, of course, that is the title track to a new album that I'm putting out in June. And this is the pickle that was in the back of the bus that they actually mounted in the back of the baggage door, which is a thrill to me. So anyway, here's the whole story.
God bless the Mighty Pickle for all the miles she's done, for all the shows the Ramblers played, she got there every one. God bless the Mighty Pickle for all the smiles she made. She drove the All-Star Ramblers to every show we played. She's a raised roof flexible starliner built in 1957. First served the Halifax airport, a long cold way from heaven. A custom coach conversion back in 61 set the stage for 60 years of Mighty Pickle fun. She's 33 feet long, she's 8.5 feet wide. Ford V8 534, a torso elastic ride. Check the oil, check the gas, check the trailer too. Take good care of the Mighty Pickle, she took good care of you. God bless the Mighty Pickle for all the miles she's done, for all the shows the Ramblers played, she got there every one. God bless the Mighty Pickle for all the smiles she made. She drove the All-Star Ramblers to every show we played. Vermont's not flat, we all know that. The hills go up and down. You nail the gas pedal going up, you ride the air brakes coming down. You have to get a running start, it's always quite a thrill. To make it seem so effortless to blast up Old French Hill. Bob Wills, Hank Snow, Buck Owens, and Doc Chicky too. Out of Tulsa, Nashville, Bakersfield, and Wheeling, they all flew. They rode their flexes town to town to play another show, then sped back for Saturday night to play on the radio. God bless the mighty pickle for all the miles she's done, for all the shows the Ramblers played, she got there every one. God bless the mighty pickle for all the smiles she made. She drove the All-Star Ramblers to every show we played. The mighty pickle's gone to heaven where she ought to be, to Philadelphia, Mississippi, for all the world to see. To the Congress of Country Music, it's Mighty Stewart's place. She's on display there every day with a smile upon her face. The mighty pickle is no more, she's gone from green to red, bright red and white exterior, chrome wheels and sides instead. Marty renamed the bus the Chief, it sure gives me a tickle to know that back of the baggage door there rides a wooden pickle. God bless the mighty pickle for all the miles she's done, for all the shows the Ramblers played, she got there every one. God bless the mighty pickle for all the smiles she made. We drove the All-Star Ramblers to every show we played.
Hey, Rick, it's Marty Stewart. Dave Wright gave me your number, and I wanted to call and tell you Merry Christmas. And then thinking about you every time I call up on the bus. The Mighty Pickle's still in there somewhere, you know that. Hey, if I miss you today, we'll get busy around here. I'll call you back tomorrow. Hope you have a great Christmas day, man. Bye-bye.
So there you go. Isn't that something? So look, it's getting along here. I want to get into some of my rock and roll photographs that I'm sure you're going to be semi-amazed at. Let's see here. Hold on. Oh, come on. You still with me? Okay. Let's see. So during COVID, I had a deal with the Tampa Times where they used my pictures that I shot at the shows when I went to cover the show. Come on. Okay, play right down here. Oh, please. So they didn't pay me a penny for my photographs. They just paid me as a writer. And after 5 years, I was making $90 a week with no benefits. So I left the paper to go back to playing music full time. But this, for me, was graduate school, seeing how the big rock and roll stars and what they did and how they did it. And here's a Led Zeppelin. This is a crowd shot, and you can see I'm in front of the police lines. But during COVID, I got my negatives out and put together 3 different programs. And these are photographs from one of the programs. And the first night out, I was to cover Janis Joplin and B.B. King at Curtis Hickson Hall. And my father loaned me his Leica camera that he'd gotten in World War II and that I'd never used before. And I got these shots, and this one was in Time magazine, and every newspaper in America picked it up because Janis Joplin got arrested for obscenity in Tampa that night. So I'm thinking, hey, this journalism thing's pretty easy. You just press a couple of buttons and it goes national. So that never happened again, but that was because of all the disruption. She only did 7 songs, but it was pretty darn spectacular. Here she is at about 6 weeks later at the West Palm Beach Rock Festival. Allman Brothers at Tampa Stadium before they built the other end. These are Dickie Betts. There's some more Allman Brothers shots here. B.B. King, wonderful entertainer. You can see I had a pretty good position to shoot these pictures. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of Badfinger, but they were one of the first bands to be signed by Apple Records by the Beatles, and these guys had worked with the Beatles in Abbey Road studio and put this band together, and they were terrific. They came to Tampa twice. Here's the Beach Boys, the Eagles. This is Bill Graham, and the impresario Bill Graham, he started Fillmore East and Fillmore West, and he produced some of the biggest rock concerts ever, and he brought Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young to Tampa, to the stadium, and I had a chance to interview him and talk to him, and he was, needless to say, he did what he did really well. Bill Haley and his curl, David Clayton Thomas, Bo Diddley. Couple of bow shots there. There's, look at Bob Dylan. Heartfelt. Dylan and the band down at West Palm Beach at the Sportatorium. Grateful Dead, Bob Weir. But I had to cover them all. Bobby Sherman, Brownsville Station, the Byrds on their Sweetheart of the Rodeo tour. That was a wonderful show. So see this is Clarence White, and that guitar Clarence White is playing had a special string bender that he invented that raised the B string, the second string in. You could lift it up in pitch and lower it by the guitar strap, and that's the guitar now. Clarence White died many decades ago, and that guitar is the guitar that Marty Stewart plays every day. Isn't that cool? Carl Perkins here in Lakeland at the old plantation. Anybody ever go there? Speak right up. I guess not. Okay, well, Carole King with the show with James Taylor, one of the best concerts I ever saw. Cat Stevens, England, Cher. Got some pretty good shots of Cher here. Look at this one. From behind her, of course. That's not a good angle for Sonny and Cher. I just thought I'd stick it in there. Chet Atkins, one of the all-time great guitar players of the world. Chuck Berry. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young at Tampa Stadium. Every once in a while I would sell a picture. And that picture Budweiser got hold of. David Crosby, two of him, the late, great. Dolly Parton and Porter Wagoner. Elton John, that was a wonderful show. I don't know if anybody saw his farewell show here a while ago, but he was red hot that night. And see this picture right here? Look at there, Steinway Piano magazine. Got $25 for that one. And Elvis did one of the all-time great shows in Tampa, September 13th, 1970, and he spent 10 years making movies and never being out and playing with in front of people, and so he went to Las Vegas and did a number of shows in Las Vegas, and then felt he was ready to go out on the kind of rock circuit. And so he put a great band together. They played in Phoenix, and it was awful because the band and the singers overpowered Elvis, and nobody could hear each other. And so when the next date was in Miami, so they bought what they call a monitor system. And maybe you've seen speakers in front of bands, and that basically plays what you're doing, instruments, back to you and vocals, so you can hear when it's time to come in and where the pitch is and all that stuff. Well, this was a whole new thing for Elvis because the rooms that he played in Las Vegas were small enough so that you didn't need this sort of thing. So when he came to Tampa, it was his second time, and he was on fire. And so his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, said no photographs, and they threw a New York Times photographer out of Curtis Hickson, who was shooting with flash, and all the policemen knew me from working at the paper, and I was always very nice to policemen, and which isn't, I guess, a common thing today, but in any case, they allowed me to continue to shoot because I was shooting available light. And so I got some pretty neat Elvis shots here. So he always liked to, he loved the police, and he would, every show he would reach down and grab a policeman's hat and do a song or two with it and then give it back. And this was part of that interaction. But he sure put on a great show. Sold out both shows, of course. So anyway, hope you enjoy these. This is one of my favorites too. Eric Clapton, he came to Tampa just shortly after recording a Derek and the Dominoes album, and Layla was the big hit that you remember off that album, and there's another shot of him there, and this was the only concert that Dwayne Allman ever did with Derek and the Dominoes, and that was here in Tampa, or there in Tampa, I should say. Okay, the Everly Brothers, back when they were speaking. Here we go. George and Tammy. They had a place here in Lakeland called the Old Plantation, and it was their home, but it was also a performance center. And so these were taken at Curtis Hickson, but I'm going to show you some from the Old Plantation, so you get a sense. These are Graham Nash, Greg Allman, Humble Pie with Three Dog Night. That's a good one of Jethro Tull, Ian Anderson. This is the show I was talking about with Carole King, Joe Mama, a backup group, and James Taylor, and it's one of the best shows I ever saw. While I was there, there he is again. And Jeff Beck, that recently passed away, wonderful guitar player. Okay, here's this girl jumped up on stage, and Jerry Garcia was not amused, and I caught that whole scene there. So Jerry's limousine, everybody left, and there Jerry Garcia is without a ride to his hotel in Tampa. So I just happened to be driving a 1974 Pinto Squire. So I gave him a ride back to his hotel in a Pinto. And I got a couple of quotes out of him, that's for sure. He was thankful. Okay, this is the opening act for the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young show, and that, let's see, Jesse Colin Young, some of you remember that, Smile on Your Brother, everybody get together and love one another right now. Well, he was the opening act, and I shot this picture and then turned around, and there's his daughter backstage guarding a flower that someone had sent to Jesse Colin Young. Let's see, John Hartford, the late John Sebastian. There's a Johnny Cash shot from the Old Plantation here in Lakeland. There's June Cash, Johnny Carter, Johnny Cash, through a wrought iron fence. This is a good one because it's the Carter family and let's see, the Statler brothers and Johnny and Joan. And Mother Maybelle Carter was there on that stage as well. Johnny Winter, okay. Lou Napoli was head of the police details that covered the rock concerts and everything. And if you look in his back pocket, you'll see a drumstick. And some guy in Johnny Winter's band at the end of the show threw the drumstick out into the audience. This policeman went out there and grabbed it back from the guy that thought he had a souvenir from the show. That was quite harsh. Kenny Rogers, and so this is Nocky Parker at the University of South Florida. As I say, he was a wonderful, wonderful jazz pianist. Christopherson, Leon Russell, wonderful singer. There's Linda Ronstadt. There's Mel Tillis from Plant City in an awful suit. Merle Haggard, a couple of Haggard shots. Mick Jagger down at West Palm Beach Rock Festival. Yeah, we're running late here. There's Mother Maybelle. We're just about done here. Leslie West, Felix Pappalardi, Neil Young, New York Dolls, first punk act to come through here. That's me. Pink Floyd, Dolly and Porter, a couple of those. President Nixon, I shot them all. And then this is Press Pass Plus that I did with 385 photographs on it. So the Kinks, I'll zoom right along here. Regis Brothers at Busch Gardens, Roger Miller, wonderful. Seals and Crofts, Sonny James, Stephen Stills, who went to high school in Tampa, and Joe Lala from Manassas. Those guys were all Tampa boys. Steve Miller Band. Here's a few crowd shots for you, so you could see what we're up against. Okay, this is the stage at the old plantation here in Lakeland, and that's turning around and taking the other side. Isn't that something? Three Dog Night. We're just getting down to the end. Hang with me. Tina Turner. Tom Jones with Ladies Underwear. Save the best for last. Another shot off a stage. This is the 63,000 people Led Zeppelin concert at Tampa Stadium, and this was a for 10 years it was the biggest single concert show, not part of a rock festival, but single concert, and it was a great show. Jimmy Page. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed these. That's it. Oh, come on. Thank you very much for your patience, and I'm really happy you came out, and you can see how much Florida Southern has had an impact on what I do and what I love to do. So thank you. I'm going to go out back and meet some of you folks, and I can't thank you enough for coming. Thank you.